You're listening to The Link here on Radio Canada International. I'm Carmel Kilkenny, sitting in this week for Mark Montgomery. Just a reminder that we're on the net at rcinet.ca/English with a podcast version of the first hour, if you're interested. We're heard in North America on the Sirius satellite system, Channel 95, and on DRM at 9800 kilohertz, and across Canada. Early each morning, it's a rebroadcast of the previous day's program. That's on CBC Radio 1. We're on the Hotbird satellite in Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, and India, and around the world on shortwave. And you can get in touch with us by email. It's the link at rcinet.ca. You can send your 140 characters by Twitter, The Link Radio, and on Facebook, we're The Link on Radio Canada International. And we love hearing from you. Drop us a line. Well, last month, the Israeli blockade of Gaza came into the international spotlight when one of the ships in a small flotilla that wanted to break the blockade was boarded by Israeli soldiers. In the fighting that ensued, 9 people on board were killed. Since then, under international pressure, Israel has eased its blockade of Gaza. But a group of Canadians says Israel is not going far enough, and now that group wants to send a Canadian aid ship to Gaza. Ehab Lotayef is a Montreal writer, photographer, and activist who spent the last few years advocating for an end to Israel's blockade of Gaza. And he's one of the people working to organize the Canadian aid ship. He joins me now on the line from his home here in Montreal. Welcome back to The Link, Ehab.
Thank you very much.
So why are you organizing this Canadian aid ship to Gaza?
Because exactly as you said, we do believe that the blockade itself is a problem. Easing it doesn't help. And the blockade goes two ways. It's blocking aid from getting into Gaza, but also blocking the people of Gaza from living a normal life and trading with the world and depending on themselves rather than depending always on international aid, which we believe is the situation where Israel wants to put them all the time. So also we think that Israel has to be under continuous international pressure, and people have to be reminded about that, because the attack on ships in international waters is by itself unacceptable, and we feel that the Canadian government did not speak out against this grave injustice, and thus it fell upon us as Canadian civil society and Canadian citizens to take the role that our government should have taken and speak out against the Israeli atrocities and speak out against the blockade of Gaza till it really ends. Easing it with allowing some more material to go in now and then reversing it a couple of months later doesn't solve the problem.
Who do you want to see taking part in this mission?
We hope to get a lot of support, and we are already, although it's a very recent campaign. We started this campaign after a period of organization, after the events of the attack on the flotilla. We've been only working for the last 20-25 days. We've got a lot of support from many organizations, but what we need to see in material on the ship is, in addition to aid, and let's be frank, no matter how much aid we put on the ships will not solve the blockade, so it will remain to a certain extent symbolic. But what we need to see is Canadian personalities that believe that this blockade should end, and Canadian journalists who want to witness by themselves the reality of the situation join us in this mission and go in the Canadian boat that heads to Gaza.
Are there any politicians taking part?
As I said, we are very early in the campaign at this point. We are getting positive responses. We don't have commitments yet, so I would rather not mention names at this point. But in the very near future, we hope to be able to announce the list of endorsing individuals and organizations to this campaign.
Will there be a member of Prime Minister Stephen Harper's Conservative Party?
I think you know the answer to that as much as I do. We don't think that the Conservatives are going to agree to join this. Actually, we don't even think that the Conservatives will let this go without attacking it. But this is a part of the problem we know from the beginning, is that the Conservative government and the current Conservative Party are supporting Israel unconditionally, and that's a part of the problem that we are tackling.
Tell us what goods you're planning on sending to Gaza.
We plan to take a wide variety of goods, but we want to make it very clear, and we are open to any independent body to inspect our cargo before we move from whatever port we're going to move from, heading to Gaza, which is probably going to be in Cyprus or in southern Turkey, because we are not going to carry any questionable materials, neither into Gaza nor out of Gaza. At the end of the day, it is going to be a peaceful mission, our intent is not to confront with the Israeli army, but rather to tell the Israeli army that we will not, or the Israeli government, that we will not stop. The international community will not stop sending boats, and we hope that our boat will be a part of a larger flotilla that would go again to break the blockade. But whether it succeeds physically of breaking the blockade and reaching Gaza or not, we are going to try, the citizens of the world are going to keep trying to say it clearly and say it by action, not just by words, that this blockade is wrong and it should end.
Describe the effect the blockade is having on the people of Gaza.
Oh, the people of Gaza have not been able to build anything that was destroyed in the Israeli invasion in December 2008, January 2009, because for starters, a large part of the industrial area in the Gaza Strip, which is a very small area in the first place, it just measures 10 kilometers by 40 kilometers, was the industrial part was destroyed. A lot of buildings were destroyed, and one of the things that are not allowed in and still are not allowed in right now are building materials. So till today, windows are covered by plastic sheets that the glass was shattered. Buildings are piled up as hills of rubble inside this, everywhere in the strip and inside the cities. The needs of the people to be able to build their country, their area, is not met by any way. We hear a lot about the amounts of fuel or food that Israel lets into the strip, but if we look at United Nations estimates as what percentage does that constitute from the normal needs of the population, we always find that it is a small percentage or a middle range percentage at best. How
much do you need in terms of goods and money before you set sail?
Well, the ship itself is going to cost us like the cost of the boat, because nobody would rent a boat to go to Gaza, as you would probably understand, because there is a good possibility that they'll never see it again. So the boat itself and the trip expenses, fuel, harboring it in the ports, crew and stuff like that, is going to reach about 300,000. On top of which we would be hopeful to get supplies directly donated to take to Gaza.
Are you close to having what you need?
No, we're not close to having what we need at this point in time. As I said, we are 20 days in just starting a campaign that would expand 2 months another 2 months for collecting the money we need. But we're very hopeful that the Canadian population is very enthusiastic about this, especially after what we have seen, the reception of the survivors of the Mavi Marmara. And there, by the way, both Farouk Bernie and Kevin Nish, who are on the Mavi Marmara and witnessed the attack, are a part of this work group for a Canadian ship, a Canadian boat to Gaza. The outpour of support is huge, and we have no doubt that we'll be able to get in track, and that we will join the international flotilla. Hopefully other countries would also be able to do the same to sail sometime in October.
To sail in October, that's when you're planning on sailing?
That's right.
And how can anybody who'd like to know more about your work and the effort find out about it?
Our website is CanadaBoatGaza, one word, .org, CanadaBoatGaza.org, and all the information is there. An email link is there. Links to our Facebook and Twitter updates are there. And we hope to hear from people all over the world. You know, sometimes a word of support from a listener of Radio Canada International in Equatorial Africa would be a great addition to our work.
Ehab Lotayef, thank you for telling us about it today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I've been speaking with Ehab Lotayef. He's a Montreal writer, photographer and activist who is among a group of people working to organize the Canadian aid ship to Gaza.